Buongiorno a tutti, buongiorno, benvenuti in questa nuova intervista per Lago Film Fest. Oggi ho l'onore di avere qui con noi un altro dei registi della selezione Principi, della Princìpî Award Competition. Il suo film è un film molto particolare, molto breve, ma molto intenso, coperto di tanta storia, di tanta messa in scena e di tanta potenza caricata dalle sue interpretazioni. We will switch in English for the interview. I'm glad to have here with me the director of Swimming in a Sea of Trauma, Ugochukwu Azuya.
Yeah, nice to meet you, Nick. Thank you for having me on today. Glad to be doing this.
Thank you. Thank you for the wonderful movie. We're very big fans of it.
Thank you.
Okay, so Ugo, as a first question, I would love to ask you in a very general and introductory way, like, what is the inception of Swimming in a Sea of Trauma? How did the idea came to be? How did you do it? What was the scatenating event that brought you to do it? And
Yeah.
basically, what you can tell us about it.
It kind of just came like I don't know, like all ideas. I guess like I caught an idea. I was actually like in the middle of reading a book. I was reading about Ben. I was reading Ben Okri's The Famished Road, like the 1997 Booker Prize winner, and yeah, the Famished Road is about this spirit child that can see like multiple planes of reality, and he can see like the physical world and the world of spirits, and basically he's like going like he's watching like he's like an observer watching like the community go through like social and political change, and he's also seeing this kind of changes within the spirit world. So I would say I don't know how it worked, but I guess subconsciously that informed like the idea for Swimming in Sea of Trauma. Because after that, I then had this idea of a girl meeting another girl that was kind of suspended in time and was still experiencing the consequences of the Biafran War. And then I just got to thinking, and I got to think, okay, what were the potential like spiritual consequences of the Biafran War in relation to like the Igbo worldview and belief system about like the world. So basically, after that, I just got into doing my research. I did like research on like the Biafran War. Then I did research on like the Igbo belief system and about death as well, like what the Igbos believe about what happens after death and things like that. And basically, the Igbos believe in that there are two earthly realities. There's the land of the physical world which we live in, and there's the spiritual world, and they coexist basically. And I thought, okay, that's kind of echoes what is in the famished road, and I kind of built my story around my story of like collective memory and like trauma and this sort of like shared memory between those two people that are from like different times basically. So that's why I basically did, you know. But it was kind of interesting when I was building my story, and like some of the ideas I had subconsciously were actually there already existing as like the Igbo, like for example, like I had this idea that she was suspended in time, so she was like stuck in like some kind of limbo space. Then I read about like death, and the Igbos have this concept of good death and bad death, and if you die in a bad way, um you can't like reconnect with your ancestors, and you have to go into this almost like purgatory space where like you just wait basically. Like for example, if you're not buried properly, or like if you commit suicide, or if you die like a really like bad death, you know, you won't be allowed to like reconnect with your ancestors that way. And I thought, oh wow, like for like something like the Biafran War, which was basically like a genocide, like there would be multiple accounts of that. Like there'll be people that just went missing. There'll be people that just yeah, they were just killed and left on the streets. And like what does that mean like for for like in spiritual terms and for my story, which I wanted to put on film. So yeah.
Okay. Okay, thank you for the lovely answer. It was
Yeah, thank you.
very interesting to hear,
Hmm.
and to link with what the movie speaks about, and to link with
Hmm.
what the movie is made. Like what was very interesting to see is how your movie deals with this subject and deals with the tale of this trauma and with this memory
Hmm.
of this of the earthen memory in the spiritual world, and you
Hmm.
prose it in a way that is very almost theatrical, like with two simple dialogues and two actresses that are,
Hmm.
by the way, wonderfully directed. You
Hmm.
managed to convey this energy. So my question is, was it always the intention to film in such a prosal way of like in a very theatrical setting with just dialogue, or to be when knowing the actresses and preparing the movie?
I would say a bit of both. I think mainly everything came out from my research. When I was researching, obviously I had like the fan show, but when I was researching and reading papers and books on and war accounts, or like, yeah, war accounts from survivors about what actually happened during the Biafran War, I was just kind of almost like collecting data, filling up my reserve, and trying to understand, okay, how do I stage this kind of setting, like
Mhm.
this intimate communication between two girls about something that happened in one person's life, and also has reverberations down the line, obviously, in another person's life. So I would say that when I wrote that particular when I wrote like the dialogue, there was one particular poem that was in my head which I had read as part of my research. It's from Chinua Achebe's book. Like, he has a book of
Mhm.
poetry called Christmas in Biafra, and he wrote this particular poem called Refugee Child and Mother. And reading it, it just struck a chord in me, and I felt like, how best would it be to communicate like someone's trauma or someone's like tragedy in someone's family. And I thought about like also like like the Igbo need for storytelling. We have this very huge thing about like oral storytelling, and it's always been like almost like a tradition within like the southern eastern part of Nigeria,
Mhm.
which is where most Igbo people are located. And I thought, okay, let me try and bring that into the work, and even down to things like the mask that you see was also from another kind of theatrical setting of dance, because those masks, like, women don't even wear the female ancestral mask, so it's men that wear the female ancestral mask, and they basically perform as um female ancestral spirits at like festivals and rituals and things like that. So yeah, that was kind of like my thinking around it. So it was just a mix of a lot of references, then going down the
Mhm.
filter of like, okay, how do I deliver this thing through the story?
Okay. Okay, and
Yeah,
yeah, very interesting. Also, the oral aspect that you speak about, it was something that
yeah.
struck immediately with us, and yes,
And I would also say that maybe also some parts of it also came from the text of Ben Okri, because
Mhm.
sometimes like in a chapter, like Benukri would go from like a physical setting. Let's say like there's a party going on, and maybe there's a photographer taking pictures of people. Then he'll be like, oh, from the flash of like the camera, like spirits there coming out of the white flash of the camera, and he would go from there, and he would go even deeper and deeper. Like, he'll go for, okay, from those ghosts came other ghosts, things like that. And yeah, it
Mhm.
was just like exuberant in his language. And I thought, okay, what would be the best, almost kind of regal way of explaining this kind of story that would still be impactful as well, you know?
Mhm. Yeah. Okay. Perfect. No, no, it all comes through with the dialogue, and really,
Yeah.
it's a very powerful scene and a very powerful setting. And again, the actresses were phenomenal. It
Yeah.
must have
Thank
took a
you
lot
so
of
much.
time working with them, or was it something they all understood
Um,
within the screenplay?
Funny enough, it wasn't a lot of time. Obviously, I did my preparation. I did like yeah, we had like meetings. We had meetings explaining what we were going to do. Like I explained, obviously not everything, but I explained sort of like the theme of like the work and what I really wanted to achieve. Then I left them to like just prepare themselves. Then on the day we kind of had discussions, brief discussions on how they could deliver what I wanted, and yeah, we kind of went from there. It was like a collaboration. It was just like a
Okay,
like a typical
okay,
collaboration that you'd do about. And
okay.
I would just say they're just brilliant actors. I would say Marian and Uzo, who played Chisom and Nkechi, they're just good. I was really lucky to be working with them because they were just really enthusiastic about the project, number one, and they were willing to go places. And funny enough, both of them didn't really speak the language, so they had to
Oh,
learn it under like a very short period of time.
okay,
Yeah, so they had to like really go over their language. They were both Igbo, like
okay.
yeah, they are both Igbo, but they don't speak the language. It's not like something they speak English as a first language, so it was something they
Mm,
had to like prepare themselves. And I think I cast them probably like 2 weeks before we shot.
okay.
Yeah.
Oh, very
So
interesting. Also,
yeah.
because the next question was exactly the topic of the movie is very in a sort of way like a very political and
Hmm.
reminiscent topic because speaking about the Biafran War,
Hmm.
which is an event and a war that is not very remembered very much outside of Nigeria, and
Hmm.
and also to recite in Igbo was something that very struck us and really made us feel much more the movie. So my question is, what were did you have any challenges in this politically charged and recited in Igbo, and was it something that made you think about the movie in a certain way, or was it all smooth and you had no problem with it?
Um, at first, when I received the idea, like anybody receives idea, I didn't. I was like excited. I was like, oh, wow, this is a good idea. This is something I can do. Then I think I started having doubts when I started doing the research and seeing like, oh, this is a real life thing that happened that's still relevant today and has affected people's lives. And I thought, okay, I really have like a moral responsibility to portray this story in the most visceral and effective way, you know, and really get my details right. Like I really went through painstaking research to get that. I didn't kind of ridicule any kind of spiritual belief or any kind of like to get the worldview of the Igbos as correctly as possible through my
Hmm.
research. That was the only way I felt comfortable enough to proceed. So yeah, I really felt like a moral responsibility about what I put in the work and making sure I did things not for sensationalism, but like for to be able to tell the story in the best way possible. And
Hmm.
I think when we had the discussion, when I had the discussion with the actresses, like I really tried to put that down, like why this was important and why we needed to do it. In terms of like production, I don't think I really had any difficulties because it was really like an enclosed thing. Like it was just okay. It was self-funded. I didn't really talk to many people about it. I just showed a couple people, like a couple like friends, family members, and they also thought it was like a good idea to embark on. So I didn't feel that pressure. I don't think I feel pressure in terms of telling political stories. So I feel like we kind of underestimate how much politics plays um, has an effect in our lives. Like for example,
Hmm.
in the world, like the maps that we have is basically because of a lot of like social and political change or the way we're able to live our lives. So I don't really feel pressured about because I feel like in every story, even like a love story, is like political
Hmm.
in a certain way. Maybe just like different variations, but like all stories are kind of political in their own way.
Okay. Okay. Perfect. Perfect. Thank you for that answer. And well, as a last question, Ugo, that's getting aside all the topics of the movie, the next question is more about you.
Yeah.
What I would love to know is, after swimming in a sea of trauma, and which I consider a recent success next to other huge successes from Nigeria, like the Surreal 16s, Juju Stories, and or Mami Wata, Fiery CJ's movie that had premiered in Sundance and won in Sundance. I would love to ask you, what is next in your career, and where do you see, if you think and you hope and you feel that in the next few coming years we'll be seeing much more talents coming from Nigeria like yourself.
Definitely. I hope so. I hope, just like when I saw like Surreal 16 working there, I love much younger people that are thinking about making films for the right reasons. And I think the most important thing is that we all have that moral responsibilities, that the stories that we want to tell are important and they matter, and we're able to create like our own narrative logic, and also build on the language of cinema, not kind of, have regurgitate what's been there, because it's very easy to regurgitate what's been done before. So I think
Hmm.
we should be able to think about building our own narrative logic, and adding to the language of cinema. I look very often to like a lot of Asian cinema. Like I love Asian cinema. I remember the first time I saw Simon Lang, Hu Zhaozhen, I was like, oh wow, like these guys are completely, even though yeah, it has similarities with like it has some Western tropes, obviously, but like
Hmm.
they are completely doing their own original thing, and it's accepted in the world. And I feel like, yeah, I'm really hopeful for the future, but I think like we have that moral responsibility first of all in the stories we tell and how we depict people in these stories. So yeah, I'm looking forward to the future. I'm excited. And for me, yeah, my I think my goal ever since I started this thing, I just have this conviction to want to make films and to want to, add to cinema history. That's like that has been like my goal from the very day like I had the idea of making films. Like I wasn't even really into films. Like it was like a whole new world to me. Like I remember just sitting down and the idea came to me. I was like, oh, that's a good idea. The idea of like wanting to make films, and I was like, oh, but I don't even know what filmmakers do. Like it was a whole new world to me. Like cinema history basically opened itself up to me, and I
Hmm.
and I don't know, like I just I just became convicted, and I started to learn and read about the craft. And ever since, yeah, there's just been this need to like put stories in language of images, sound, and editing. And yeah, I'm just right now maybe planning. I'm planning on making a few other shorts, then eventually a feature. Yeah, I'm just planning and working and
Okay.
developing myself, I guess. Yeah.
Okay. Well, for starting like this, I hope the future looks bright, Ugo, to be
Yeah, I
honest.
hope so too. I hope so too.
And yeah, I completely, and I get the sentiment you're coming from with the moral aspect as well. And I
Mhm.
completely agree. I completely agree. It's always wonderful to find directors that are as in love with the craft as you are, and we
Thank you.
really I really hope for the best for you. And that being said, Ugo, thank you so much for speaking with us about Swimming in a Sea of Trauma. The movie will be shown in Lago from the 21st to the 29th of July. I hope the people and the public get the same thing we got by watching the movie.
I
And
hope so.
nothing. Well, thank you again so much for this lovely interview, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you so much.
Okay.